Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we're going through and altering images using washi tape. So this is my portraits book that I bought at a market for a ridiculously cheap price. And I've been using it as a bit of a portrait journal for my collage. And I've just been finding it really a great way to get out of a rut because I don't have to think too much about it. I've got an image there, I'm just adding to it. And I'm really loving in this book itself, it's got 200 portraits, 100 of men, 100 of females. And because so much of my work in the past has been very female centric, it's actually really nice to be working with men. So you can see here, I'm just going absolutely nuts with my washi tape and using that to create the clothing for my character. Just laying lots of washi tape out and then using my craft knife to cut out the excess. Now I'm not having to press down very hard with my X-Acto knife to get those cuts, and because it's washi tape, it peels off really easily. The paper itself in the book is fairly thin, but because I'm not using all that much pressure to actually do the cuts, I've never actually cut through the pages. So as long as you're not using a really tough pressure on it, or an uber sharp knife is always handy. But if you're just a little bit careful with what you're doing, you'll get a nice cut with it. Um, Unlike most everything I do with my other journals, when I'm doing cuts, I usually have a cutting mat behind it. In this book, I don't, because I am fairly mindful about what I'm doing. With the gold tape, I'm just cutting off again little strips and creating my edges. So if you see me do stuff like this in this journal before, quite often I'll use black pen. I'll still go in with a little bit of black pen, but I decided, because I really like that gold and it's so eye-catching, that I would use some of the gold tape just to sort of create this really cool effect and um, what you call it, detail on my collage itself. So you can see by putting a little bit of black paint marker over the top of that, it just helps push it out from the background. Now what I'm going to do is go in and add a little bit of colour to my person. So I'm just using the Tim Holtz Distress, not crayons, woodless watercolour pencils. I just call them crayons. I can never get the right name out. But I find them really handy to put just a little bit of colour in. I'm also using some of my paint pens. So a lot of the time when I'm working in this book, it really is just grabbing what is close to me. So those washi tapes in particular were sitting on my desk because I'd pulled them out for another project. So I pulled them out to do this project. The paint pens sit in front of me. Been using greens recently, so that was sort of sitting next to me and I grabbed that. There really isn't, I don't tend to think very much about the colors I am using. It's just what's sort of close to me. With this one, I decided that I was going to kind of create a bit of a frame with him. Now, the reason I sort of ended up doing this was obviously I started off with yellow, and the yellow going over that grey of the background of the photo obviously wasn't going to work very well. So I thought because I really loved that contrast of the yellow, that I put a different colour behind him and sort of have like him almost coming out of the frame. So then I decided to really play up the frame effect with my big thick marker and create sort of that almost like a window. So there's lots of different ways you could have gone with that. I could have created a window or a door or put a scene outside. You know, the limit is only your own imagination. I decided to go pretty simple because I copped out of drawing a picture behind it and decided to put a quote in instead. While I'm sort of thinking about what I'm going to write or say in the middle, I just added some additional details with a thin black pen to his face just to help him stand out a little bit. With a pencil, I just drew out some wavy lines. And this is one of my favorite ways to sort of do bulk writing on a page, is to use a capital letters and make them the size of the line. So because it is a curving line, the sizes will shift and change shape. It's a really great way to not disguise your writing, because you can obviously read it really clearly, but the writing becomes more of a pattern rather than um, the focus, if that makes sense. So even though you can still read the quote, it's just like this linear pattern in the background, which I really, really love. So you can see in places I'm going back over the white just to make sure it's very, very bright on the page. And also because my quote ran out, I had to think of a few extra words to put in just to fill up the space, because I didn't want it to sort of be empty. Now I'm going in with my black pen and doing a bit of a drop shadow on it. So you can see the difference straight away between just writing the quote on, which looked fine, it looked like pattern in the background. By putting that drop shadow on, it suddenly turns into almost more three-dimensional writing. It sort of pops out a little bit and it's sort of floating there. I really love that effect. So it's something that I will always do when I'm doing my lettering, just to make it sort of stand out, basically. So you'll see me when I'm using my paint pens constantly drying my work. The reason for that is you can see I'm just rubbing my hand all over what I've just written. I have absolutely no patience whatsoever. So I tend to just quickly blast it with my heat gun and make sure it is dry. Great thing about working with acrylic paints, and the reason I love them, is once they're dry, they're permanent. Which just gives me that little bit of confidence. I am not very good at using water-soluble media because I really love the permanence. Once I've finished putting my leaves in, then just can quickly go in with a white pen when I find one that works and add some details over the top. So just really, really scribbly lines, but that sort of helps echo the writing in the middle, where you've got that white with a little bit of black. So now I've got black with a little bit of white. So one of the things I really love about working on a page is making sure I've got sort of that repetition happening within the page. So here is a close-up of using the washi to create my clothing for my shape, and then how I've created my background as well. A really, really simple way to do this. If you didn't have a book like this, you could certainly do something similar in on a magazine image, and play around and doodle to your heart's content over the top. Thanks for watching. Until next time, bye for now.